It's Wednesday, May the 26th, which means you guys are going to have an opportunity to take over the show today. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the show. But I want to talk about a movie that I watched about a year or two ago. And it was a really good movie. And it prompted me to change the way that I speak and interact with people. And one of the big lines from that movie was, mistakes were made. And I look at a couple of situations and I say to myself, mistakes were made. Who else could it be? Me, yo, Louie T. Welcome to the 163rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on today's show. It is a Wednesday program here on the Louie T Network podcast, which means social media maneuvers will take place a little bit later on in the show. That's where you out there, the viewers, get to take over the show. If you have a comment that you want read on the air, if it is pertinent, I will read it and react to it. Use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to have your comment read on the air. You can super chat. That jumps you straight to the front of the line. But if you just want to comment, use the hashtag LouieTeeLive. Get you an opportunity to voice your opinion, and we can have a discussion. We'll do that when we get to social media maneuvers. Hopefully we'll have enough time to take as many of those comments as possible. We'll finish up the show with garbage time. We'll start the show like we start every show here on the Louie T Network podcast with a gem dropping session. But before we do any of that, I want to talk about a couple of situations that will lead us right into the gem dropping session. And there was a movie that I watched. And first of all, somebody asked me about Jurassic Park, the animated series on Netflix. And I told you guys this already. It is amazing. Okay. If you haven't watched it, do yourself a favor and binge watch it. And doesn't matter if you have kids, if you're a kid yourself, or if you don't even like movies like that, just give it a chance. And if you don't want to watch it, then don't watch it. It's a really good show. It's well done. And the newest season just came out. It seemed like it came out rather quickly, I may add. And we enjoy it. We watch it all the time with the kids. It's great stuff. So check that out. And that's my endorsement for Netflix. But there's a movie that I watched with the kids and the wifey about, let's call it a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And it was called Timmy Failure. Mistakes Were Made. Now, let me tell you, this is a great movie. Love the little kid that's in it. And the little kid in the movie has this vivid imagination. I won't go too far into it, but he has a vivid imagination, and he lives with his mom. She's a single parent, and he doesn't have any siblings, and so they're essentially on their own. Mom's trying to make it. She's working hard, trying to provide for herself and her son, and Timmy is this kid that thinks he's an investigator. He's got this vivid imagination, and you know, it's a great movie. So anyway, long story short, anytime he does something wrong, he doesn't apologize by saying sorry. He says, mistakes were made. And so I just found it so awesome in watching that anytime after I watch that movie that I make a mistake and somebody says, man, you effed up, you know, and I'm talking about family members, friends, whomever. I don't say, oh, man, my bad, or oh, I'm sorry. I go, yeah, mistakes were made. I just love it. I love that phrase. I love what it means. It's short. It's to the point. And you're not getting a sorry out of me. I love it. I adopted it. And in today's show, I think it's pretty safe to say that a couple of different entities, organizations, whatever you want to call it, people, they effed up, and mistakes were definitely made. And that's where we start today's show. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. Mistakes were made in two different situations. One with Aaron Rodgers and the other with Julio Jones. We will take them one at a time. We've talked about both of these situations ad nauseum, but these are different angles because we've now heard from both of these individuals. One on purpose, the other not so much. So let's start with Aaron Rodgers. He spoke on SportsCenter as Kenny Mayne was filming his last episode of SportsCenter. He is leaving ESPN, or they decided not to renew his contract. He's not going to be back. And so Kenny Mayne was doing his last show on ESPN's SportsCenter. And Aaron Rodgers, obviously, I didn't know this, but he was a massive fan of Kenny Mayne, and they go way back. They've done a ton of different segments together. And so Aaron Rodgers is very fond of Kenny Mayne and his dry sense of humor. And so he looks at Kenny Mayne as a friend. So he said, I'm going to come up there and I'm going to celebrate you and your career on ESPN. I'm going to do a spot with you. And Kenny Mayne said, well, yeah, we can do all the joking and stuff, but I still got to get a serious question in. And so, of course, he asked Aaron about Green Bay. Is he going to facilitate a trade? Obviously, he wasn't at day one of OTAs. They came, they went, he wasn't there. It's voluntary. We talked about that already, but obviously the big story there was Rodgers hadn't missed a voluntary OTA in Green Bay since he's been a part of their organization. So it was a bit of a story, but it really wasn't because we knew he wasn't going to be there. He's living life right now. The guy was at the Kentucky Derby one week. The next time you see him, he's at a wedding. Another time you see him, now he's in Hawaii. I saw pictures today of him in Hawaii. He's living life, man. He's enjoying himself, and he should. So on the SportsCenter interview with Kenny Mayne, he talks about specifically where the fracture in the relationship with the Packers organization happened. And he didn't get into specifics, but we can read between the lines. And he talked about loving his teammates. Says, I love Jordan Love. Don't have a problem with him. He's a great teammate. He's a great kid. Love him as a teammate. I love my teammates. Love those guys to death. I'd go to battle with them. I love the coaching staff. I love these guys. They're awesome. And he's professed his love for the coaching staff before. This coaching staff, not the last one with Mike McCarthy and company, but this coaching staff. He's talked about how he really likes what they've done since they've gotten here, and Matt LaFleur and company. So it's not the first time I've heard that from Aaron Rodgers. But it was what he didn't say that led people to believe that they're the problem, and we already knew this. We were drawing inferences, but by omission, he essentially told us, I don't love the organization, the front office, specifically Brian Gutekunst and company. They're destroying this team. And he said, specifically, they forgot that it's about the people. That's what makes up any successful business or organization. It's the people. And they lost sight of that. And he made sure to mention those who came before him and, paying homage to what it means to be a Packer and the fans and all of that stuff. And he said, they forgot it's about the people. And I think what he was alluding to were various situations that they haven't handled correctly. I do think the Jordan Love move was a mistake. I think Rodgers is subtly saying that. That instead of drafting a guy to replace me, and Rodgers did say this, and this lets you know where he's coming from and what he's thinking. He said, I threw a wrench in their plans by winning the MVP this year. I told you when they drafted Jordan Love, they thought Aaron Rodgers was not necessarily on the decline, but he wasn't playing at a MVP-like level anymore. He wasn't going to be able to single-handedly elevate the level of the rest of the team to heights that would lead them to the NFC Championship game by himself. It was going to have to be a team effort. He wasn't going to be the Aaron Rodgers of old that could single-handedly elevate everybody's play and win the MVP. That guy was supposed to be gone already. That's why they drafted Jordan Love. They didn't see this coming. But once it happened, they said, man, we effed up. Well, it's too late. And Rodgers took that situation, and obviously there are other players that Rodgers would have wanted them to keep. I talked about, you can't think that it helps that every year Rodgers looks up, one of his core offensive linemen are gone. And then in the NFC Championship game, he gets sacked like 87 times. Can't look up and see Brian Bulaga gone. And then the next year, Corey Linsley, your all-pro center, I don't know if he's all-pro or not, but he's one of the better centers in the league, gone. Off to Los Angeles with the Chargers. That can't keep happening every year yet. You think it's okay to draft a quarterback instead of getting me a wide receiver. Doesn't make any sense. And so he's looking at it, obviously the Jake Kumaro thing pissed him off too. He's looking at it like how Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson and a lot of these quarterbacks who are starting to speak up are looking at it and saying, I'm the most important guy in this organization. I'm the guy that matters the most, not to shit on anybody else, not to make Devontae Adams feel any less or Aaron Jones feel any less, not to make Jair Alexander feel like he is non-existent or his opinion doesn't matter, but they're not the quarterback. They don't play the most important position, not in just football, but in all of sports, if you ask me, all of team sports. They don't play that position. It's played by Aaron Rodgers. So if you're going to make decisions that impact the team, I'm not saying you got to consult Aaron Rodgers, but if you're thinking about drafting Jordan Love, don't you think it'd be in your best interest to say, hey, Aaron, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? Obviously, he's going to say, I don't want you to do that. But at least he won't be blindsided by it. At least he won't feel some type of way. He'll know where he stands if you decide to do that. They didn't do that. They essentially blindsided Rodgers, and it'd be one thing if Rodgers was coming off an injury-riddled season. It'd be another thing if Rodgers was fully healthy, but he underperformed and you could start to see the decline right before our very eyes. That's not what happened off the heels of the 2019 season heading into the 2020 draft when they decided to trade up to select Jordan Love. They had just won 13 games in the regular season and made it to the NFC Championship game. That's what just occurred. So for you to think that it's okay to draft my replacement after we just played in the NFC Championship game, when we think we're a few pieces away from getting over the hump, you think it's okay to draft my replacement now? You got the game all effed up. You don't get it. That, I thought, started this thing, and then watching a bunch of the guys that he wanted them to retain and them not being aggressive in bringing in guys that could help, especially on the offensive side. I felt like this for a long time in Green Bay. They've essentially said, Aaron's got it. We don't really need to add anything of note. He's got as long as he's got one road dog, he's good. Whether it be Jordy Nelson or it's Randall Cobb or it's Devontae Adams, as long as he's got one dude he can rely on, he's good. We'll surround those guys with a bunch of seconds and fourths and fifths in terms of draft capital. And he'll figure it out. It's Aaron Rodgers. He'll get it done. But they never, ever invested a first-round pick in a stud wide receiver to pair with Aaron Rodgers, even though he's got Devontae Adams. There was never another investment made. How long did it take them to find a tight end? They had Jeremichael Finley. Don't know what happened there other than injuries, but that went to shit. They tried the Jimmy Graham thing. It didn't work. They never invested in a tight end to really take the pressure off. There was Jared Cook there in free agency for maybe a year or two. Here comes Robert Tonyan. He's undrafted though. They got lucky with that one. Rodgers has essentially said, you were trying to replace me behind my back. It backfired in your face because I'm playing at an MVP level. I just won the MVP and you didn't see that coming, and now you're trying to retrace your steps and kiss my ass and make me feel better about you trying to shit on me. I think it's going to ultimately work itself out in Green Bay. I do. I think Aaron's stance is softening a bit. I think he understands that his best chance to win is probably in Green Bay. But they're going to have to pay for this. I don't know if it'll come in the way of a financial payment or if it'll just come in the way of them getting beat up in the media, as they've been taking a thorough ass whooping in the media by fans and media types alike. I don't know if he just wants them to suffer for a bit and then he'll come back. But he's going to come back. I don't see him going anywhere. Like John Kuhn said, I think Aaron Rodgers and James Jones, I think to a lesser degree, said Aaron Rodgers is going to play in Green Bay in 2021. I do see that happening. After 2021, however, especially if no new money is to be had and there isn't a new contract, I think this is his last year in Green Bay, however. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. But the Packers organization, definitely, we can say mistakes were made. As far as the Julio Jones situation. So we've got more developments and fallout from the Julio Jones undisputed off-the-cuff interview that was had via the phone call with Shannon Sharpe. So we talked about this ad nauseum on the last podcast, because the last podcast was really Julio Jones centric. However, I'll quickly breeze over it just to give you a refresher and a recap. Julio Jones appeared on Undisputed via phone. Because Shannon Sharpe called him, he did not pick up. He then called Shannon Sharpe back. Shannon picks the phone up while live on air, proceeds to ask Julio a bunch of invasive questions that are going to prompt a response that one would think is a personal conversation. Shannon Sharpe never divulges at the beginning of the conversation, "Hey, we're live on air," just so you know. He just proceeds to talk to him as if he's out about to get his car washed and about to walk into the supermarket and pick up a few items, and he's just talking to him on the phone. So Julio goes into his whole spiel about, I'm out of there, first and foremost, which the Falcons didn't want that information out, even though everyone knew he was getting traded. They still needed to keep the leverage on their side of, hey, we can retain him. There's no animosity here. There's no bad blood. Even if we can't find a trade partner or we can't find compensation that we deem to be pertinent, we'll eat the money and we'll keep Julio because he wants to be here. By Julio going on national television and saying, I'm out of there, it speaks to his level of discontent with the situation. And it essentially means that the Falcons their backs are against the wall now. Like, we've had this conversation. I had this conversation with Washington fans when Morgan Moses was released. Right before he was released, I said, guys, Morgan Moses is gone, right? He hasn't been released. He hasn't found a trade partner. But if the team tells you, hey, you can go find a trade, that essentially means they're willing to release you. Now, they're not going to release Julio Jones. Trust me, they're going to get something for this guy. It's too valuable an asset to just let walk free. However, more likely than not, Julio Jones has played his last snap as an Atlanta Falcon. And they would have liked to have kept that under wraps until they actually made the deal. Because much like this is the best analogy I can give you. Antonio Brown. When he was traded to the Vegas Raiders, there was this amount of draft capital that everyone thought was going to be attainable for him because of how good of a player he's been in the league. And initially, Buffalo was willing to offer a first-round pick, and he essentially nixed the trade by saying, I don't want to go to Buffalo. And the Bills said, well, shit, you don't want to be here. F you, rescinded the trade. Give me back my first-round pick. Hey, Pittsburgh, figure it out. And by him doing that, and the Steelers already telling everybody that would listen, hey, this guy's a cancer. We can't have him back. The trade value for Antonio Brown diminished to the point where the Raiders got him for a song, a third-round pick. A guy of Antonio Brown's stature, think about when that trade was made about 3 seasons ago. What he was in the league at that time. He was the best receiver in football. And they got a third-round pick for him. Why? Because the value had diminished greatly. One, no one wanted to deal with the headache, which it's not apples to apples because Julio Jones isn't a headache. However, everyone knew the Steelers were backed into a corner. Everyone knew that they didn't have a lot of options nor any other recourse. They wanted this guy gone. So they're going to have to give it up. And if you want him gone bad enough, you're going to have to take what somebody's offering you. You don't really have a choice now, do you? That's not necessarily where the Falcons are, but that's where they're heading because of that information getting out. Now, all of a sudden, they go from looking like a team that is willing to move Julio Jones, but doesn't have to. He could be a part of that nucleus with with Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan and what they're building offensively. He could be a part of that nucleus still. It went from that, like, hey, we could trade him, but if we don't, we cool with having him, to, hey, we're desperate here. Somebody, please come take him off our hands. That's what that interview essentially said. Julio saying, I'm out of there, pretty much says, this thing is at the point of no return. The Falcons got to do something. Well, that softens their leverage. It puts them in a corner that they didn't want to be in. So the Falcons are beyond pissed. And because the Falcons are pissed, the NFL is now pissed. And Fox, they're going to get slapped on the wrist for this. There will be repercussions. Now, it could be something as small as an apology being issued by Fox during, let's say, the first game of the season the Falcons are on national television, or the game of the week, or whatever, and they have their commentators issue an apology for Fox to the Falcons. That could happen. Joe Buck, have Joe Buck get on there and say, earlier this, offseason, Fox Network had a really, really spontaneous interview with Julio Jones that no way reflected the thoughts of Fox, and no ill intent was meant by that interview, and it really impacted the Falcons organization. And so us here all at Fox really want to extend our deepest apologies for what transpired there. There could be one of those. That's a slap on the wrist. If the NFL really wants to get even with Fox, they could tighten them up. I mean, they could really tighten them up schedule-wise and say, okay, don't worry about it. Schedule's already out this year. But they could say, hey, you remember that juicy game you had in week 7 that was coming up? Or tell you what, week 12, that's 13 that's coming up, that real juicy matchup that you couldn't wait for your network. Let's say it's the, 9-2 Washington football team and the 8-3 Dallas Cowboys. That's the matchup you had in week 13 coming up on the schedule. And that was going to be a massive ratings boost for you. Well, guess what? Since you pissed us off with the Falcons fiasco, give me that shit. I'm going to give that to the NBC. I'm going to make that the Sunday night game. And I'm going to give you some lousy ass replacement. Here, take the Dolphins and the Titans. Have that. That's your 4 o'clock game now. Ding! They can do that to them. And so we'll see what the repercussions are. But the NFL is pissed. The Falcons are pissed. And Fox is kind of twiddling their thumbs. Now, if Julio Jones wanted to pursue this, and he doesn't, I'm pretty sure he's like, it's not that big of a deal to me. No, I wasn't happy about how this all unfolded. I'm not pressing charges on Shannon Sharp. But California is a two-way state, meaning if you are recording a conversation, both parties on the line must be aware that that conversation is being recorded. Remember, we've been through this already in California with the Antonio Brown and John Gruden situation. Remember when Antonio Brown recorded John Gruden, a conversation that Gruden thought was personal and private, and then he puts it out on social media, and Gruden thought it was dope because nothing crazy was said in the conversation, but he still didn't know he was being recorded and that it was going to be uploaded on socials for everybody to hear. If Gruden wanted to, he could have pressed charges. It would have been misdemeanor charges, but charges nonetheless against Antonio Brown. He didn't want to press charges. He wanted Antonio Brown to come back and play ball for the Raiders at that time. If Julio Jones wanted to press charges against Shannon Sharpe, he could press charges because he didn't know that conversation was being recorded until the very end when Shannon says, hey, I got to go. We're live on the air. Well, find time to tell me after I've said all of this shit that I've said. I don't think Quintorris Lopez is looking for any misdemeanor charges to be filed. But that's something else that could come from this if someone wanted to pursue that. No one does. I don't think that's going to happen. But Fox is in some hot water. Essentially what they did was very unethical practice for their genre. You can't do that. And the producers just let it go. You can't, the talent, on-air talent, they do random shit. You've got to check them. That's your job as a producer, is to make sure that they don't overstep their boundaries. You were supposed to check Shannon. Hey, make sure he knows he's on live. You can call him. I don't give a shit. Just make sure he knows that that's a live conversation being recorded on the air. He didn't do that. So, at the end of the day, mistakes were made. Plenty of them, okay? A lot of violations for Fox Sports over there. I think when it's all said and done, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Nothing major. But it's going to be, it was a ratings boost for Undisputed. And it's going to help them in the interim. But long term, if I'm an athlete and I get down with Shannon Sharpe, he just lost credibility with me. So if he calls me at 9 in the morning, or he calls me at 9:37, or if he calls me at 10:15 in the morning, or 11:17, I'm not picking that bitch up. I'm sending that to voicemail, and then I'm texting you, hey, what's up, bro? What's good? You don't get me to pick up now. Now, if he calls me at 6:27 in the evening, yeah, I'll pick that up. I know you're not on the air then. What's up? And I may even have to ask you from now on, hey, is this being recorded? Is there something you want to tell me before I start talking? Is this a personal conversation? That's how I would play it. But in any event, bottom line here is mistakes were made. And Fox, they may have to pay for this big time. It just depends on how petty the NFL wants to be with this thing. They want to get real petty. They could hurt them this year and they could hurt them next year. They could get all the garbage games next year. They could hurt them if they want to really hurt them. Because the NFL controls all of that. With the packages and what games are featured, they control all of that. And with one button press, boop, they can say, hey, Fox, kiss my ass. Don't do that shit again. I don't think they're going to do that. But it's just out there. And I know the NFL is not happy. I know the Falcons are beyond pissed about how all this, because everything got accelerated. That whole undisputed, unauthorized interview with Julio Jones, there was already a fire burning with that situation. Everybody knew Julio. There was smoke already. Everybody knew Julio wanted out. Everybody knew he was going to get traded. We talked about that on the podcast numerous times before that interview. But what that interview did was it poured accelerant on that fire. It was just a simple campfire, man. A couple of sticks rubbed together, a little fire, nothing major. Then they just poured gasoline all over that thing, and that shit started to run. And now the Falcons are like, man, you just effed us big time. Now we look desperate. But here's what's going to ultimately save him. Julio Jones is a future Hall of Fame player with good football left in the tank. And all you got to do is get two teams, just two that are really interested. They're going to be more than two interested. And that's all you got to do is get two teams to compete with one another. And they'll be able to do that. And I think there'll be 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams that are interested. That'll drive up the price. They'll get ultimately something worth having, and this will become a non-story. But for now, in May, when there's not a ton to talk about, yeah, the Atlanta Falcons are pissed, and Fox Sports 1, they effed up. Mistakes were made. So we're going to transition into our next segment, but before we do, let's get a word from one of our sponsors. You are locked into the 163rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I will see you on the other side of this break. Want to thank the good people over at Manscaped for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. We're starting to get into the summer months. Father's Day is right around the corner, and I can't think of a better gift to get the big guy than the best below-the-waist grooming products in the market. I'm talking about Manscaped. And again, whether it's a grandfather, a dad, an uncle, a cousin, a nephew, whomever, it's a great gift to give. And Manscaped has rolled out a bevy of products that are making life a lot easier for people trying to get their twig and berries situated, okay? Navigating those forests and those choppy areas. That lawnmower 4.0 that they rolled out, best on the market. Over 7,000 RPMs, yet its skin-safe technology makes sure there's clean cut every single time without a trace of a nick. And they've rolled out a bunch of toiletries to help, whether it's a cologne or, some kind of other crop preserver. There's so many items that Manscaped brings to the table that is changing the game in the below-the-waist male grooming department. And really, it's just male grooming in general because, like I said, I got the Weed Whacker, which is a nose hair and ear hair trimmer that I think is top-notch, okay? And they've got a bevy of products that can take care of anywhere. Chest hairs, under the arm hairs, wherever there's hair, they got a product to take care of that hair. And so Manscaped is out in front of that entire industry with their technology. So you, if you're looking to upgrade, if you're looking to get in the game, if you're looking to make sure that there isn't a bunch of excess hair as it starts to get hot outside. It's 93 degrees today. Manscaped's got you covered. Again, if you're going to do the job, use the right tools for the job, and that's where Manscaped comes into play. Go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code LouieT to get you 20% off and free shipping. That's manscaped.com. Use the promo code LouieT to get you 20% off and free shipping. There are so many products that can help you get the body and get into the proper way that you want to feel and look. And Manscaped's got everything that you need. Remember, I told you this. Your balls will thank you. So let's transition into social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. So we're going to get to the comment section. And we are going to take some of these super chats. And then if you've got a comment out there that you want read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Now remember, super chats supersede everything. That's why they call it super. Okay? They go first. But after that, we'll read all of the comments or as many as we can get to. And then we'll move on to our final segment, garbage time. So line them up. And we'll knock them down one by one if they are pertinent. Make sure that if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, hit that like button. if you haven't already done so, okay? 120 of you out there, only 35 likes. We can do so much better than that. Please hit that like button. Let's get it up to 50, then get it up to 70, and then maybe we can approach the century mark. But I appreciate you guys in advance. So with that said, let's get to, I think I got a couple super chats, and I do. This first one is from my guy, Likely Phenomenon. It's been a while, LP. It really feels like it's been a long time. Maybe it hasn't, but it feels like it has. My guy, Likely Phenomenon, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, thank you for all your kind words and encouragement, bro. It really meant a lot to me and my fans. Hey, no doubt, anytime I can help, I do. I honestly, because it's been a long time since we've spoken, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. But obviously, we've spoken in the past. I know we were talking in the DMs before. But again, I don't even know what you're talking about. But you're welcome. Okay? I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. However, I've always appreciated you. You've been a guy that's been rocking with me for the longest time. And I know you've had a whole bunch of different endeavors that you've been involved in, whether it's music or I know at one point you were trying to get a YouTube channel up off the ground. So, I'll support whatever it is. And I really do appreciate you, LP, and all the support you've shown me over the years as well. Another super chat from my guy, Likely Phenomenon, LP. Thank you for the super chat. And double up. Thank you for doubling up, LP. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, when you have time, download the Caffeine app and follow Likely Phenomenon to watch the show, bro. So Likely_Phenomenon on the Caffeine app is what you guys need to do to watch his show that he has. And so I will definitely, if I remember, I get scatterbrained. But Caffeine app, Likely_Phenomenon. Gotcha. So y'all show him some support. If you've already got the app downloaded, then follow him so that you can participate in his show. Thank you for that super chat. Likely Phenomenon. My guy Rich, not gonna lie. Thank you for the super chat. Rich writes, sup Lou, where did you get off the bench, get in the game come from? Because I realized you started saying it, and also thanks for the mod, man. I am honored. No, I just came up with it. Just, if you on the bench, get off the bench and get in the game, man. Like seriously, I've been saying that for a while, but it usually pertained to when I was doing something like my Winners or Losers League or the Soul Survivor pools. That's when I would use get off the bench and get in the game, or just get in the game or something like that. But that's essentially what we gotta do: get off the bench and get in the game. So I just made that up, but I've been using that for a while, and no doubt, man. You're one of the few guys that I know are gonna be in a lot of these streams, and I trust you. So I appreciate you. I really do appreciate you being a mod. He also says, I think Julio should go to Indy, a good winning team that needs a #1 wide receiver. They have plenty of money and would be great in fantasy, by the way, but that's just me. Got to think for myself a little. I've said that there were about 4 real destinations for me. They were all in the AFC, and I think they were Indy, Baltimore, Tennessee, and New England. Those were the 4 that jumped out at me. I wouldn't discount the Chargers or, the 49ers or any of the other teams that were on that list. But for me, it was going to be more likely than not an AFC team. And I just saw Indianapolis, Baltimore, New England, and Tennessee as the 4 teams that made the most sense. And those were the teams that I think when it's all said and done, he's going to end up in one of those uniforms. So we'll see what happens. Andre Bug, thank you for the super chat, Andre. Greatly appreciate you. Or not super chat, Andre Bug writes, do you believe that Fitz has more weapons than he has ever had for any other team, plus a D-line to back it up? I can't say if this is the best wide receiving core he's had or weapons. I'd have to go back through the log of teams he's played for. I know he's played on some teams with some talented guys. You know, in Buffalo, they had some talented receivers. The Jets that year, they won 10 games, probably had some talented receivers and maybe had a tight end. I'd probably lean on the side of, yes, this is the most talent he's been surrounded by, but tentatively. Like, I can't say that definitively. So, hard for me to say that. I think this is probably the best D-line he's, played with, but again, we'll see. William Minat, thank you for the super chat. William, who writes super chat, I gotta stop saying it. Thank you for the comment. Hey Lou, I'm still waiting on the Jeff Badet and JHC emergency podcast. Why you slacking, bro? Laughing my ass off. Gregory Lightbody, do you think Washington has a chance of trading for Watson, and for how much currently? No, I told you he doesn't fit in Ron Rivera's vision of what a good culture is in Washington. So no, I don't think that's something that will take place. Captain Spartan 04. Kevin Colbert, Hall of Famer, drafted Hampton, Troy Polamalu, Ben Roethlisberger, Marquise Pouncey, Dave DeCastro, TJ Watt. Late gems like Kiesel, Ike Taylor, A.B., several O-linemen. Hardly missed on a receiver, won 2 Super Bowls. I know it's a stretch. Well, his career is not done yet. So he can still continue to build upon what has been a very successful. I don't think he gets enough credit for what they do in Pittsburgh and how they win. But he's still got more time to build on his legacy, which is really impressive. You just kind of laid it out for us. It's not a stretch, but it's not done yet. So once his entire book is written and all the chapters are done and we close the book on Kevin Colbert as a GM in this league, that's when we'll assess his situation and decide whether he's Hall of Fame worthy. He's trending in that direction. Rich says, by the way, this future Julio trade will help everyone fantasy-wise. More traders to Pitts, and Ridley always going to be on your PS and QS when it comes to this. I'm not a fantasy guy, so I take your word for it. But there'll be more opportunities for guys like Pitts and Ridley, obviously. We saw that with Ridley last year. When Julio was out, Ridley went nuts. And I think it showed the Falcons organization, that this guy could be a number 1 receiver. And if we need to move on from Julio, it's okay. We can do it. You meant targets, not traders. More targets. That makes sense. I didn't know what traders meant, but I was like, okay, maybe that's a fantasy term I don't know anything about. More targets for Pitts and Ridley. Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that last year with Ridley in particular. Captain Spartan says, why do reconnections just never work out in the NFL? OBJ, Landry, Tevin Coleman, Kyle Shanahan, and more. It's why I'm not sure the Burrow Chase will work out. Well, it's not apples to apples in terms of that comparison. But I mean, maybe it is with OBJ and Landry. They played in college together and then they reunited. But none of these that you brought up were quarterback wide receiver. There's a different synergy. Like OBJ and Landry are both receivers. So they're still dependent on the offensive line and the quarterback getting them the ball. Tevin Coleman and Kyle Shanahan, anybody can be plugged into Shanahan's system. Doesn't matter. Jeff Wilson. It could be Jeff Wilson. It could be Raheem Mostert. Anybody. So, that's why I didn't work out for Tevin Coleman. And he's been solid, but just not great. I don't think that has any bearing on the Burrow Chase, Jamar Chase connection. I think it's going to be fine, just fine. Captain Spartan says, favorite fruit. My favorite fruit is Probably pineapple. I love a sweet pineapple. I usually pick good ones, and I cut them myself, and I core them and everything. So I think pineapple is my favorite fruit. There's a fruit, an exotic fruit that most of you have never heard of. My family's from the Virgin Islands. So it's a fruit called a kennet. That's my favorite fruit, but I don't eat them very often because they're not here in the States, or at least anywhere that I've seen them. So if I had to pick a normal fruit that everybody's heard of, it'd be pineapple. But kennet is my favorite fruit. Rich says, I love what Ron has done to us, but the Moses move was bad. They said it was for Cap when he made $7 million, but just signed Leno for $5 million. I hate this move. He was an Iron Man availability wise. I didn't love the move, but I don't have a problem with it. I know why they did what they did. They saw an opportunity, they took advantage of it. I'm not upset, but it is what it is. It's a business. You hear guys say that all the time, and that's one of those situations that proves, once again, reiterates the fact that it is a business. Captain Spartan 04 says, how do you like your popcorn? I don't like popcorn. I'm not a popcorn guy, but white cheddar used to be really good. I'm a vegan, so obviously I don't really partake in anything with cheese on it per se. I'm pretty sure there's a vegan white cheddar popcorn out there, but I'm not a big popcorn guy. Never really was. I'm definitely not now, so anything else. He says, I don't know. It's the off season. Not much Steelers talk I can bring up. Brian says, will Fitzpatrick start, or do you think Heineke is going to ball out? Fitzpatrick, it's his job. Barring any kind of catastrophe, it's definitely his job. Gregory Lightbody says, do you see Washington trading for any QB next offseason? It could happen, but it's next offseason. There's a lot of time in between now, as we sit here on May 26th, and next offseason in March. There's so much time in between now and then. Anything could happen. A QB that we don't perceive to be on the market right now could be next offseason. A guy that we think is outstanding right now and going into his junior or senior season in college football might turn out to be trash this year. Vice versa. A guy could turn out to be really good that's not even on our radar right now. We've seen it the last 2 out of 3 drafts or so, where guys essentially come out of nowhere and catapulted himself to a top level draft pick, whether it's Joe Burrow or this past year, Zach Wilson was on no one's radar as the number 2 pick in the draft, but that's what happened. Last year, Joe Burrow was probably a 3rd round pick going into his senior season at LSU before destroying the competition, putting up one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen in college football history, and catapulting himself to a Heisman Trophy and the number 1 overall pick in the draft. It's easy to talk about quarterbacks now. You don't know. You have no idea who's going to be good and who's not. So those type of questions I just kind of steer clear from, because we just don't know. It's a lot of time right now. Captain Spartan 04 says, I guess I'll bring up our Braves. When do you think we are realistically winning the World Series? I'm saying it has to be the 2023 season. Also, how can we improve with the players? With what players? So it's frustrating with the Braves because we seem not to be able to get a break with our pitchers. They keep getting injured. We lack consistency in that department. Last year, our bullpen was ironclad, but the starting pitching it left a lot to be desired. Then we had an injury. This year, we got injuries. The bullpen has been, sketchy at best. It's getting better. The bats were asleep at the beginning of the season. Now they've woken up. We lead the majors in home runs, but, doesn't mean much if you're still giving up runs. So we're trying to put it together. We finally got back to 500. Let's see what we do. As far as winning the World Series, you can't win a World Series if you don't have dominant pitching. You can't slug your way to a World Series. That's just not how baseball works. I'd much rather have a stagnant offense but dominant pitching, because you can still win a game 1-0. If you can't stop other teams from hitting your pitching, but you can hit, You can score 8, but you can lose 9-8. You can score 12, but you'll lose 14-12. So we got to figure it out, man, pitching wise. The bats are there. The bats are there. We're fine in the bats department. We got to figure it out pitching wise. We can do that. We can do it, but that's the thing. I don't know what the time frame is, to be honest with you. Freddie Freeman is going to be a free agent here shortly. If they don't get something done, I'm getting nervous. You know, he's from California. I could see him going back to Los Angeles to play for the Angels. It seems to be what everybody likes to do. And his family lives in California. He was homesick when the season started. If you remember, he hit a home run for his wife on Mother's Day. She was in attendance. He misses his kids. He had twins this offseason. I could see Freddie wanting to migrate back west. We better find a way to sign this man long term or else. So a lot of things going on. But I digress. Got another super chat. This is from my guy, Likely Phenomenon. My guy, LP, thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. LP writes, by the way, the conversation was you inspire me to do my show, bro. I know it's been a while, but thank you for the promo, bro. No, thank you. And I remember the conversation we had. It was a while ago. I didn't know that if that's what you were thanking me for because it's been such a long time. But no problem, man. Again, I aim to try to get people to get off of their ass and to be active and chase after things that they want. So many people talk about things they want to do but don't actually follow through. I was talking to somebody the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to. It might have been my sister. And I said, man, there are so many people out there that have tremendous ideas. And they can talk a good game and they can plan everything out. But the execution, you get an A for the planning aspect and an F on the execution. And that's the most important part, is the execution. I know so many people that they talk a good game, man. Sell water to a well. But when it comes to executing and having to put in the work, and it's tough, that's when a lot of people fold. So I'm glad to see that you have found your stride. And I'm happy for you, man. Kevin, the PRF, says, so what do you eat at the movies? I don't eat at the movies. I usually eat before I go to the movies. There are times where we go to like a, what's the name of the movie theaters where you eat in the movie theaters? And a lot of these movie theaters now have Cinema Cafe, where you can eat at the movies. I've been to a couple of these bistros where I used to live. They had the, what's the name of that damn movie theater? The Pentagon. I think it's called the Pentagon. Or is it the Paragon. That's what it was called, the Paragon. There's only like 3 of them in the country, and one of them was in Newport News. And you could eat in the movie theaters there. You could even have drinks at that one, adult beverages. But yeah, I'm not a big in the movies eat guy. So yeah. Bob Esther says, I still don't understand why the media gets so attracted to Tebow. I don't either. He's polarizing, obviously, but I don't know why he's polarizing. I still haven't figured that out. So maybe because he's quote unquote perfect, and everybody likes to see perfect people not be perfect. They prey on your demise, I guess. I don't know. But he's never done anything. They've never been able to find any dirt on him. So, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Gregory Lightbody says, I'm excited to see what John Bates will do. Didn't really like the pick last draft. Well, it will do. Didn't really like the pick last draft. I don't know what that last part of your comment is referring to, but I like John Bates too. I told you guys that as well. Captain Spartan says, still talking Braves. Do you think we should trade for a superstar to join Acuna? I know we have Pache and Waters in the farm, or get a phenom ace to join Max Fried. I'm not worried about our position players right now. I'm more so worried about the pitching staff. And there was one point where we had the best, probably farm system in terms of arms in all of the majors. And it seems like a lot of these dudes have come up and they haven't been what we thought they were going to be. So, and even Pache, I'm not all that blown away by Christian Pache. Like, everybody tried to make us seem like he was Andrew Jones and that's coming to Andrew Jones. I don't see it. And he definitely doesn't have Drew's back. So, we'll see what the hell happens with Drew Waters. But Christian Pache, I'm not all that. We need another arm, but we think we have the pitchers. They just have to get healthy. That's the thing is, we'll see. Derek B says, Julio to Washington football team. Like Turner needs another excuse to stay in 11 personnel. Nah, Julio doesn't fit in our timetable. Julio doesn't fit in what they're doing right now. But, you know, they're not looking to invest in another receiver. They've done enough of that. Whether it be Curtis Samuel, never ever trust a man with 2 first names, or you're talking about De'Ami Brown in the draft. They've invested. We already got a logjam at receiver. So I don't see them doing that at all. Rich says, quick note on the Washington IG. I saw Dax Milne receiving punts yesterday. Not gonna look too into it, especially since Sims wasn't there, but just taking notes. I talked about that's something he did in college. He's not great at it. I would liken him to when we had what was Mr. Irrelevant's name? The 7th round, very last pick of the draft that Jay Gruden loved. I can see his face. I can't think of his damn name. But the small little white dude that we had at receiver, he was a punt returner. He wasn't very good at it, but he was short-handed. That's essentially what you would be getting from Dax Milne. It wouldn't be anything dynamic. He wouldn't be making anybody miss. He wouldn't be outrunning anybody. But what he would do is he would field it. He would catch it, which is more than we can say for what we had back there last year. So, yeah. Got a super chat here from my guy, Derek B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Derek B., who writes, Julio, Washington football team. Turner needs an excuse to stay in 11 personnel. That would give him the excuse he needs to stay in 11 personnel. He doesn't need an excuse. They're gonna be in they're gonna be in a bunch of 11 personnel. You already know. That's what we lived in last year. That's what he loves to be in. That's what we're going to be in. So I think you may see a little more 12 personnel this year, and you could see some 21. We saw a lot of 21 last year. I thought we were best when we were in 21 personnel, but I don't know. We'll see. We got so many. I thought the 21 personnel was more out of necessity because we didn't have the talent at receiver. So I don't know if you're going to see a lot of 21 personnel this year or not. But I thought that was one of our best formations offensively last season. Trey Quinn. Thank you, guys. Trey Quinn. Trey Quinn is his name. So that would be the comp for Dax Milne in terms of returning punts would be Trey Quinn. Not going to do anything special, but he will catch the damn ball, and that's more than we can say for what we had back there last season. So we're going to transition to our final segment of the day, but before we do that, got another ad read. See you on the other side. You are tuned in to the 163rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Want to thank the fine people over at Karma, Rental Karma, for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. I've been really heavy into my credit score lately. I guess as you get older, these are the things you start to care about. I didn't give two shits about my credit score when I was a kid. probably why I had to do a lot of work on it. Okay. But if you're young out there or you're older, it doesn't really matter. If you're a renter like myself, then rental karma is something you need to take advantage of. If you pay your rent on time, which I'm going to make the assumption that you do. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to assume that you pay your rent on time. I do. I can't speak for any of you out there. I do. Then you've got this resource that's just sitting there waiting for you to tap into to help bolster your credit score. And that's where rental karma comes into play. Use your rental history, present, past, and future, to help elevate your credit score. Simply input the information necessary. They will go and take your rental history, current, and they'll even go back retroactively and apply that to your credit score as well. So you could see instant boost of up to 20, 30, 40, even 50 points to your credit score by using rental karma. So go to the website rentalkarma.com. Use the promo code LTN25 to get you 25% off of their services. That's rentalkarma.com. Use the promo code LTN25 to get you 25% off of the services they will render for you. Look, I'm not going to talk you to death about the importance of your credit score, but just know if you're looking to purchase something, lease something, get a new credit card, anything like that, even getting a cell phone, they're going to run your credit score. They're going to run your history. Why not maximize your credit score and get it as high as possible so that you can get the highest line of credit possible or get that lower interest rate when you're looking to purchase? Rental Karma can help you with all of that by helping boost your credit score. And when you go, make sure you use their promo code and tell them your man Louie T sent you. That transitions us right into our final segment of the show. Garbage time. Before we do that, got a super chat here from my guy Monte Jackson. Thank you for the super chat, Monte Jackson. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Monte Jackson writes, love the show, Louie T. Appreciate you, G. Washington football team fan here. Yes, sir. Really appreciate you, Monte, for continuing to support the Louie T Network and all the content that comes out of the Louie T Network. Without guys like you and gals out there that support the Louie T Network, without viewers like you, this doesn't exist. So thank you, Monte, for all that you do, all the time, energy, effort, and resources you pour in to the Louie T Network. Monte Jackson, thank you again. So, with that said, let's wrap up this show with a rumor. Aaron Rodgers reportedly solicited other players during last season about linking up on another squad this offseason. So let me repeat that again. It's a rumor. We don't know that there's any validity to this. I can't confirm nor deny this. But I heard, it's a rumor, that Aaron Rodgers supposedly approached other players on other squads and inquired about potentially linking up and forming a super team in the offseason. Not in Green Bay, but somewhere else. Similar to what Tom Brady has done in Tampa Bay. Now, again, there was a ton of talent there before Tom got there. And I don't want to insinuate that there was a super team formed in Tampa Bay and Tom Brady was behind that. But Tom Brady came, and then Gronk came, and then Antonio Brown came. But they already had, all of those guys that were there. Leonard Fournette, I think he came as well when Tom was there. He wanted to play with Tom Brady. So Tom Brady's influence was felt in Tampa Bay, but they already had Mike Evans. They already had Chris Godwin. They already had O.J. Howard. They already had Cameron Brate. They already had Scotty Miller. They already had all of those guys. They were there before Tom got there. So there was talent already there. Ronald Jones was already there. Are you cool with that? If that were true, if Aaron Rodgers approached some big name players on other squads and said, hey, we should link up. We should all go to, let's pick a really garbage team. We should all go to Cincinnati. They got Joe Burrow. That's not a good one. It's got to be a garbage team. We should all go to Chicago. They're not garbage, but they didn't have a quarterback. They could use one. Chicago's not a bad place to live. Let's go to Chicago. Turn the joint around, win big. And Chicago's not trash. They made the playoffs last year. But that was one of the places I could think of without a quarterback situation. And really no direction at this point. Nobody knows what the hell the Bears are doing right now. You know, initially, when I would think about this kind of stuff, I'd get pissed off. Because the NBA is infamous for this. This is what they do in the NBA. They create super teams. Guys link up, they play with each other on the dream team, or they play in an all-star game together, or they're playing in the offseason, and they're like, yo, you know what would be pretty damn dope? What if we all got on the same team? Man, we'd be impossible to stop. And then next thing you know, you look up, and Harden and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are all on the same team. That's the NBA. Deal with it. No, I don't love that. But when in Rome, right? That's not how things operate in the NFL. However, you know what? I really wouldn't give a shit. I mean, when I sat down and I thought about that, I really wouldn't care if 6 dudes that were all pros got together and said, let's go to one team. Because unlike the NBA, where if you get 3 dudes like KD, Kyrie, and Harden all on the same team, there's only 5 guys on the court at once. You put 3 of them as, 3 of the best guys in the NBA, 3 top 10 players, all on the court at the same time, and there's only 5 guys on the court from each team, so 10 players on the court at any given time, and 3 of them are top 10 players. It really heightens your chances of winning. But if you get 6 NFL ballers all on the same team, 6 dogs, let's say 4 of them on the offense, 2 are on defense. Still 22 dudes on the court or on the field all at once. Still a lot of moving parts. It really doesn't matter. You could get Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, and Myles Garrett all on the same defense. That's cool. But if the corners stink, if you got bad safety play, if your linebackers are trash, you're still going to get gashed. You flip it to the offensive side. Let's say you get Aaron Rodgers, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham. You get George Kittle. And I'll throw in Trent Williams. That's one of the best left tackles in football. You get all those guys on one team. That's great. But if your right tackle stinks, or your center is okay, or, whatever, it's still going to impact you. Or the defense is trash, still not going to win anything of note. I said all that to say this. It's a lot harder in football to create a super team than it is in basketball, where there's only 15 guys on the roster and 5 of them are on the court at once, and there are only 10 players on the court at one time. There's so many moving parts in the NFL. It's damn near impossible. And the salary cap isn't going to allow for that unless you get a bunch of guys that are selfless, willing to take less. It's not set up for a bunch of high-priced free agents to show up and play for the same team. It's an interesting concept. It's fun to talk about, but it's damn near impossible in the NFL. And again, if you get all of these guys on one team, doesn't mean anything. in any sport, a guy could get hurt, but in football, it's a real possibility that somebody could get hurt. So you can have all those guys I just named, Julio Jones, ODB. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty backup. George Kittle, Trent Williams, Dalvin Cook. They could all be on the same squad along with Aaron Rodgers. And then Rodgers gets hurt week 3. Done for the season. Well, who gives a shit that you got ODB and you got Julio and you got Kittle and you got Dalvin Cook? You got nothing because you got nothing at quarterback. And that could happen in the NBA. Harden could go down, or Kyrie could go down. But even if Kyrie Irving went down, do you still not think the Nets could still win the championship with just Harden and KD? Because I still think they could. With the supporting cast that they have in Brooklyn, I still think they could win an NBA championship. It'd be a lot harder without Kyrie, but they can still do it. So, anyway, I thought that was interesting, hearing that Rodgers, put out some feelers to see if anybody was interested. Nothing really came of it. If that is in fact true, could be just a rumor that's being bounded about. His name is in the news right now, so it's easy to throw out Aaron Rodgers rumors for clicks. But I just don't see that happening in the NFL. I don't see how that could happen. And, it'd be one thing if you had a dominant defense somewhere. Washington's a great example. Perfect example. Got a dominant defense. And Rodgers goes up to 7 dudes on the offensive side of football. He goes up to Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, who's already on his team, and he goes up to Dalvin Cook, and he goes, and let's just assume all these guys are going to be free agents after the 2021 season. Again, none of this is true. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. Let's just say Dalvin Cook, Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham, George Kittle were all free agents and all willing to take slightly less to make it work. And you bring them on board, along with Rodgers, obviously, to Washington to add to what they already have, Terry McLaurin, whatever the case may be, and then that defense. That's when you start to say, okay, wait a minute, what the hell just happened? But that would never happen in the NFL. It would never happen. So, anyway, I digress. I thought that was interesting. Would you be cool with that, though? NFL super teams? Would you have a problem with that? I don't know. It's just something to think about. That's some food for thought. You guys, go ahead and do the dishes. So, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 163rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me on the show today. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and hit the like button. We've still got over 120 of you out there. Only 63 likes. Come on, guys and gals. What are we doing? What are you doing? Let's get that like number up to at least 70 before we exit stage left. I am having a blast. I got to say this again. I am having so much fun unboxing cards and getting back into the card collecting space. If you haven't already checked out the CCS, I'm continuing to make improvements. I'm going to get to a point where I'm comfortable doing it live. I haven't gotten there yet. Got to kind of get my feet up under me. But once I do, I'm going to start doing these unboxings live. But I'm really enjoying myself a lot more than I thought I was going to doing this. I am having way too much fun. And so it's fun to be back in the card collecting game, man. Been away for a while, but I'm back like cook cracking. Man, am I having fun. But I got to get some big wins, man. I'm ready for some big wins. So we're going to see if I can get some really big wins here shortly. But whatever the case may be, some wins, some losses, you guys are going to see them all. And with that said, I am going to get out of here. So if you haven't already done so, get off the bench, get in the game and come kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. Have a good one.
Louie T Network.